they have to stop filming so he could just pant like a dog. Like he couldn't sweat, so he would get overheated.
So, Greg, what's actually the point of this?
Because I thought that Michael Berryman was in Last House on the Left. But Mark does know Michael Berryman, so it all worked out. He's a
But why would you bring up this guy having to pant like a dog, though?
Because it's an interesting story. This guy had this condition where he couldn't sweat.
Now the next time I see him, I got to offer him a bowl of water because
yeah, you do.
Pat him on the head.
Give him a little snack, a pepperoni.
All right, welcome to another episode of the Law Offices of Quibble, Squabble, and Bicker. Unfortunately, Brendan is not here today. He had work to do, so it is sad. And today we have an incredibly special guest. And I said that last week because last week we had Jeremy Rain on, and this week we have Marc Sheffler, both of whom were in the seminal horror feature Last House on the Left from 1972, and both of them have gone on to have actually other careers than in the movies, which I think is kind of an interesting thing, and which I want to get into later. And later also, we'll be discussing Our Client, which is kind of a reboot of Our Client from last week, because we never really got to Our Client last week because we were really into the conversation. So it is Life is Horror and You're Horrible Redux. That is the client for today.
Old, trapped in a hellscape of their own invention, socially unaware old white men bound by the pretense of being fake lawyers yet knowing no law, no exquisite Latin terminology, they are inexplicably compelled to quibble over minutia, squabble over triflings, and bicker like those who value their backyards far too highly without even knowing the difference between an easement and an alleyway. At this very moment, you have entered the heart of the Law Offices of Quibble, Squabble, and Bicker. Let's get started.
In a small, God-fearing American town, one reclusive family is different than the rest, and they lie in wait for unfortunate travelers to fall into their web of depravity. Anti-Fatality Films presents a cinematic journey into terror. Last House on the Left, a reboot of the classic horror film. You'll meet Skylar, the matriarch of the clan, who gets her kicks by drowning small children in fermenting tubs of kombucha. Martika, her gender-bending husband who has rejected his God-mandated authority as head of the household so he can forcibly transition red-blooded men into a sin-driven life of wanton sissyism. And their Molly-addicted son, Fidel, who runs his own one-man Antifa cell that wants to ruin everything decent and pure in America and make blue lives shatter. If you love your country, do not visit the Last House on the Left.
I'm humbled.
Humbled?
I am. I'm, if I wasn't wearing shorts, I'd be down on my knees.
I added some political gravitas to the last.
I know. I didn't see the copy, but it felt like there were moments of adlibbery.
Marie and her friend.
I feel like a woman for the first time in my life.
Two girls from the suburbs, going to the city to have a good time.
This is my roommate, Sam.
Hi, girls.
This is my sister, Martha. Martha, these girls, want to buy some grass.
Four fun seekers on the loose, also looking for a good time.
And the road leads to
They meet on the first house on the right. What begins as a birthday party ends as a big fun-filled jamboree.
I want to give you something.
I don't want that.
Worth a lot.
I don't want
Please. I want to be your friend.
You want to get free.
I want to be your friend.
What did happen on the first house on the right? The good Dr. Collingwood lived there.
Oh, nonsense. Our home is yours.
His wife lived there too.
I've always dreamed of a man who could take me easily.
So did their daughter Marie. They all lived there. They got together and chopped a lot of firewood together so they had plenty for the winter. To avoid having too good of a time, though, keep repeating, it's only a movie. Only a movie. Only a movie. Only a movie. First house on the right.
Was that produced by the Church of Latter-day Saints? That seems like a
Yes.
nicer movie. I kind of wish the movie was like that. That would have been nicer.
What about?
Yeah.
Sure. So okay, so there was our two sponsors for today. Normally we only have one, but Greg and I apparently got overly inspired by your presence.
Okay.
So
Well, glad to help out.
I'm glad that you did that movie. Otherwise, I couldn't have done that at all. I couldn't have done this without you whatsoever, Mark. Now let's get into your life. So obviously, in 1972, you did The Last House on the Left, and then, according to IMDb, you didn't do any other movies for decades later. You went in from assuming you went into Hollywood TV screenwriting, but did you stop writing in the 90s and then still haven't done anything since then, or until like 2009? Is that accurate, or
Okay, so which period do you want me to cover?
all of them?
Everything.
So
I was born a poor green child.
All right. No, not at all. Last House came out, and let me back up to get it accurate. I dropped out of college in 1969, and I had 3 life goals firmly in place. I wanted to smoke as much weed as possible.
Be on our podcast.
I wanted to sleep with as many different women as possible, and I wanted to earn just enough money to afford the weed and the women.
You were very wizened and sage. That sounds
He
like
wasn't
really-
wizened then, Greg.
I know, but that is
No.
such a good way to live your life.
But he wasn't wizened then.
Well, okay, he was sage though. He was a wise.
Since
Anyway.
I'm a fundamentally a chicken shit and don't have the balls to be a criminal, the entertainment business from an early age for me seemed to be a great draw. So I quit college. I went to the Catskill Mountains. I got a job as a stage manager of a nightclub in a huge hotel, like a 1,500 seat nightclub, and saw every comedian in that circuit. Like in 1969, it was at the tail end of its heyday, but it was still quite the place to be.
Could you give us some names? Like, are we talking Shecky Green?
Shecky Green,
old timers.
Don Rickles, Alan King, Freddie Roman,
Buddy Hackett.
Who? Buddy Hackett. Yeah, just everybody.
Wow.
Just all of them, right? And I got friendly with a couple, and after I was at the hotel for about a year, one of them, a guy by the name of London Lee, who was a very popular TV comedian, had done a lot of Carsons, a lot of Merv Griffins, and he was very popular. And he was actually, his whole routine was that he was a rich kid. He was like the poor little rich kid. And he did come from a family like Trump wealthy. However, probably Trump's real wealth, right? A couple of $100 million. This family, but that was back in 1969. His father owned a big dress company on 7th Avenue. So I went to work for him as his road manager, and then became wrote a couple of jokes for him that he liked, and then he put me in his act, a little 2-minute bit that we would do in the middle. And then I stayed with him, did about, close to 200 club dates, and did 2 weeks at the Copacabana in New York City. I did my stand-up, a little bit of my stand-up there with him. So shortly after that, I left him, quit the job, went on my own, was doing little clubs, going to auditions, and shortly after landed Last House on the Left. Now pick up where we left off. Last House, nobody expected it to be what it was. Nobody, not Wes, not Sean, nobody. We all thought it was just going to be that, drive-in for Hallmark releasing, and that would be that. So it comes out, goes in the drive-ins, doing its thing there, and out of nowhere, Roger Ebert writes a 3.5 out of 4-star review of the movie. And as I sit here and tell you the truth, literally overnight, everything changed. The next day I walked into Sean's office And I said, hey, did you hear about that Roger Ebert review? And he was running around trying to figure out how he was going to fill an order for 1,000 prints when he had like 30 prints made, and that's all he needed. Now, right off that review, 1,000 prints are ordered. So it just, and then it broke wide. So what happened was I got a chance for like the next 2 or 3 weeks to taste what it was like to be one of the stars of a movie that was in the top 10 in the United States. And I can tell you that it started to fulfill, the second part of my life goals. Women were throwing themselves at me. I went to do publicity back in Pittsburgh, where I grew up, and the film was opening there at a theater that my father's cousin was the general manager of, like the whole chain. It was like they made a huge deal out of it, press, little video, TV news, and print and all kinds of shit. And like women from my high school graduating class who was scant 3 years earlier would not give me the fucking time of day, were now offering me a whole lot more than just the time.
This is the greatest story ever told, as far as I'm concerned.
Right, it gets better. No.
Who doesn't dream of that?
I promise you, it gets better. Okay,
that's everyone's dream.
So anyway, I mean, I remember being with one of them and thinking to myself, this is a fucking good career choice. This is like, this is it, man. This is it. So Last House comes and goes. It's a short-lived film, right? It got a lot of press, got a lot of heat, but it, took a dive just as quickly. So after this intense high of, this 3-week period of my life when, I was buzzing, it all went back to like shit. Like, I was back to being another out of work actor. I was, that's it. I had nothing. I was in a movie is not, I am in a movie. Saying I was in that picture is not like saying I am in that picture. Right. So, the present verb tense is where you get caught up in the thing. So, I don't know, time went by. I did some gigs. I worked on my stand-up act. I did a couple of commercials, and I did some commercials and a lot of auditions for a guy named N. Lee Lacy. Now, to put who Lee is in context, back in those days, he was probably one of the most well-known commercial directors in the world. He's the guy who directed that Mean Joe Greene Coca-Cola commercial, that very famous.
Whoa.
Yeah, he's the guy who directed that. So he and I became friends. He, for some reason, he just liked me. Like I was crazy and I was, kind of fearless. And I didn't get every commercial that I auditioned for him, but I got a couple, and we had a nice relationship. So I survived, and I was able to kick back. But I kept searching for another thing. I wasn't getting any more parts. I tried. I was going out. It's hard to get. I lucked into Last House, and I was getting enough to get by, but I wasn't really doing anything. So, and the women's scene was like fucking, I was like a sponge trying to get water on the desert. You just wasn't going to fucking happen.
Yeah, you weren't getting the easy pussy.
No, I wasn't. I was having to really work for it and work for, average, not the fucking creme de creme that I was used to, right? For 3 weeks, I got used to it.
For 3 weeks.
For 3 weeks, I got used to it, right? So
It's a good 3 weeks, though.
Whole 3 weeks, though.
Queen.
It's like a whole 3 weeks.
But it was a good 3 weeks. It was a solid 3 weeks.
And I didn't sleep much, so it was like 6 weeks, okay?
Taking advantage of it.
Yeah, of course. So anyway, one night I'm at a party in New York, and I see a guy who, doesn't look much better than I do, just kind of average. And he's in a corner of a room talking to a woman that is a fucking 10 plus, just gorgeous, like real New York model type, just absolutely fucking gorgeous. And I can tell she's mesmerized by this guy. So I know, moseyed on over there, and I had to hear what he was saying. And what I heard was, well, yeah, I'm struggling a little bit with my second act. I got the first act perfect. And you know, and I got to get it done. My agent in Los Angeles really needs it. You know, there's a guy at a studio he wants. So I'm just, you know, I know how it ends. I know what the you know, climate. And she's just fucking wrapped up in this. And I thought to myself, hey, I could do that.
So he was playing the brooding writer.
I could tell
card.
girls I'm a writer, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, I go out and I buy a bunch of books on writing, on playwriting, screenwriting, and TV writing. I wanted to like be a, you know, versatile writer. So I bought little primers on all of those books, and I started this little rap, right? I started this thing, and it got better and better and better and better and better, and was working and working and working and working. So I was like a writer at parties. I'd meet girls, and, you know, you didn't really have to do anything. I just, like, in my apartment, I just, you know, throw some notebooks around and have a typewriter, you know, just nonsense. You could dress the set like in a second. It just, you know.
So you weren't actually a writer professionally at the time. You were just playing a writer. So you were acting
at parties to get laid.
You put ink on your fingers. Like,
okay.
Oh, yeah,
that's how. But along the way, I was acquiring all this nomenclature, right? All these words. So one day I find myself in Lee's office, in his reception area. I was there for an audition, and I talking to a girl, and I'm doing my thing, and it's fucking working. And she's just about to give me her phone number when I get a tap on my shoulder, and I turn around. It's Lee, the director. And he said, hey, let me talk to you for a second. And I said, what? He said, didn't mean to intrude, but I kind of heard what you were saying. I'd love to read that when you're finished. And I was like, you know, panicked. I took him aside, right? And I said, Lee, look, man, I'm not writing anything. This is all scam.
It's a game.
You're a guy. I'm telling you, we're friends. No bullshit. He said, well, I said, I'm just doing it to get laid. And he said to me, is it working? I said, oh yeah, all the time. And he said, then you're like a fucking idiot. And I said, why? He said, dude, if you can get women to take their pants off for things you're pretending to write, imagine how your life would improve if you actually sat down and wrote something.
I want to interrupt for just a second.
I looked at him, and, you know, 21, 22 years old, I said, I never really thought about it like that. So I ended up writing it, and it took me like, I don't know, year and a half to finish it. And I gave it to him.
What was it specifically that you finished?
It was a movie called
Movie script.
Snakes from that's all I called it. It was about, the story was a bunch of poisonous snakes get loose in New York City in Central Park on a hot summer afternoon. You know, somebody was smuggling snakes. They had a van accident, rolled, went down into a gully. Snakes got loose, and now there are all these events in the park. So, you know, it's just a scary thing, right?
So what did women do when they found out that you actually weren't a writer? Or did you, it was just usually a one-night thing, and then you never saw them again?
No, I'm not stupid.
How would they find out?
So you loved them and you left them.
I loved them, and I blamed the work.
I gotta say though, Lee, I think is very smart, because if you have the narrative skills to, you know, scam women into bed with this fake thing, you could probably write.
Yeah,
because writers are liars.
Well, wait.
Writers lie for a living.
So now, when I said to you, it gets better, right? This is what I mean by this. I send it to Lee, and like, I don't know, a month, 6 weeks later, he calls me up and he says, how'd you like to move to Los Angeles? I said, why? He said, because we sold your script to NBC. I said, what?
The script you hadn't written yet?
My agent at William Morris sold your script. I gave it to my agent, Stan Kamen, in the motion picture department. He gave it to Arthur Axelrod and Jerry Katzman, the head of the TV department. They took it over to NBC and they sold it. I went, hop, 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 hop. I became like Jackie Gleason, man. Hop, hop, hop. What?
This was the Snake script.
Yeah, the Snake script, right?
Oh.
So he said, yeah, he said, you come to LA. We'll make make sure the deal is made. I have a car here for you. We'll get you an apartment. And of course, you can have an office in my complex. He owned a building on Melrose Place at 8446 Melrose Place. It was this one-story, sprawling Mexican like hacienda office area. And he shared, he rented the other, he had half, and then he rented the other half to Neil Diamond. Okay.
Okay.
So That's where Neil's offices
There's
were.
got to be some stories there.
Anyway,
Did you get his runoff?
I will tell you this.
Did he
that
say hello more than once when you
I've
saw
seen
Neil
him-
Diamond?
Yes, I said hello to Neil more than one time.
So he said hello again.
So when I said to you it gets better, when you said you made some reference, not you, your partner,
The other
made,
you.
a reference of I came to before family. No, I landed in LA to move here. The day I landed, I had a car, an apartment, money in the bank, an office, and William Morris as my agent.
Wow.
Yeah.
And it's a spec script, basically.
Well, it was a spec script. Yeah.
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 And you're in the
Nice.
city with the most per capita, most beautiful women in the world, probably.
Listen, something. I love fucking Los Angeles, man. It has been so good to me. I never do any Los Angeles jokes because it was William Morris that set me up at the Comedy Store, and that's what caused me to become a member of the class of '77 with Robin Williams and David Letterman and Jay Leno, and all those guys are now my friends. They're my peers, and this LA has been just amazing to me. I met my second wife here, and
How close were you to Letterman and Leno and those guys?
Back in the day when we were all kids, we were with each other at least 5 days a week, both from 8 o'clock at night to 1 or 2 in the morning.
Which one of them was the most annoying?
Neither one of them. They're both great guys back. That's what I remember.
Well, just those two. Like of all of the comics that you're hanging out with.
Oh, who I don't talk trash about people.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's not
What
my
kind of
thing.
question is that, man?
Well, there had to be somebody.
I can appreciate
like it was
yes,
Bobcat
no.
Goldthwait or somebody, So
No, something. I don't do that, and not because I have no fear of anyone, right? It's not that I don't do. It's just not me.
it's a hallmark of good character, Mark, is what we're
Yeah,
dealing with
it's
here.
just
So,
not my thing.
Which we
so,
don't have.
that's
But I
right.
do want to
He
say
will scam women out of their pants, but he won't talk bad about his
But
friends. So that's a good thing, actually.
Hold it. That's an honest day's work.
Yeah, that's what we all did when we were young men.
I'll tell you a story. Speaking of one of somebody, one of the things I realized about being on stage at the Comedy Store back then, and I imagine it's still the same, but for us it was our new experience. And I'm an original paid regular. My name's been on the wall for like over 40 years, right? So I'm part of that original crew. But I realized that very shortly on, that as long as I stayed with this microphone in my hand on the stage of the Comedy Store, I was never, ever, ever going to have to go to a singles bar the rest of my life. Okay. Now, I'd never spend a nickel buying a drink looking for.
So comedians have
it's never going to
groupies?
happen.
Comedians have groupies.
So what comedians would do, and myself included, was, how singers, if they see a girl in the audience and he finds her attractive, some romantic guy singer, he'll like croon to her. Yeah. So the comedian version of that is to be on stage and do your setup of your joke to the entire audience, and then do the punchline right to the girl. That's the comedian version of that. And it works the same. It has.
What was your favorite joke for that purpose?
Ooh, I don't know, man. I can't, I really, can't remember my act in that specificity from back then. And
sorry.
the jokes I would do now, I'm not allowed to even have that intent because I'm happily married. So we don't even get involved in that right now.
Right.
So,
I understand that. I'm on wife number 2 as well.
Yeah. So I don't mess with this because my wife is just too terrific to me. So, so one night I'm on the stage and I see a table of girls, and there's this one skinny brunette, kind of cute, who's looking at me. And what I would do is, if I thought somebody was interested, I would test it, right? I could take your temperature by the way I moved. Like if every time I moved left, I saw her eyes go, or their eyes, you could tell, right? You know, how, if they're really watching you or they're just watching you as a comedian.
These are life lessons, Greg. Pay close attention. Take notes.
Yeah.
No, I'm asexual now. I don't
So
You're asexual.
yeah, there's no future in that. So I see this girl, and sure enough, I finish my set. I walk in the back of the Comedy Store, and she runs right back. And she, oh, I loved your set. I loved your set. Where are you from? And you know, so she's like hitting on me with a fucking sledgehammer.
She's giving you a green light, basically.
Yeah, of course, I know that. So I had my house, the place I lived. I had a house in Laurel Canyon, about 6 minutes from the Comedy Store. I just right down to Sunset, make a right, half a mile, I'm at the store, and the same going back. So within seconds, we're back in my apartment, in my house, and having fun. So, you know, clothes come off, you know, it was the time, clothes come off real fast. We do it, have fun, do it again, have more fun, take a break. So now we're sitting up, and she said to me, listen, I need to tell you something. I said, look, as long as there's nothing microbial in that conversation, I don't need to hear anything.
Yeah, microbial is not what you want to hear.
I don't want to hear any microbial stuff. Is this a microbial thing? And she said, no, but I'm seeing another comedian. And I said, look, I don't know if you noticed, but we met like 40 minutes ago. So it's not like a thing. Like, it's not like, you know, I'm not even at the end of this evening yet, let alone anything else from this.
Like, let me wash first.
Yeah.
And we'll talk.
So she said, well, do you want to know who it is? I said, no, not particularly. I don't care, again, unless it's a microbial thing, you know, and I hang out with those guys. I haven't seen anyone scratching. So, you know,
it was Paula Poundstone.
So she says, well, I'm going to tell you anyway. It's David Letterman.
Oh.
And I don't say anything. And she said to me, that's it? I tell you who it is, and you don't have anything to say? I said, oh, yeah, I have something to say. And she said, what? I said, I admire your range. Now,
so at the time, Letterman was still just doing stand-up, though. He wasn't.
He was. This was totally pre-everything.
Yeah.
This is the 70s we're talking about, right?
Yeah,
Late
he was
70s.
still driving his fucking pickup truck from Indiana.
Yeah.
So now, to David's defense, okay, I have no proof that this girl was telling me the truth. Like, I didn't go up to Letterman and say, hey, Dave, are you fucking this girl named Nancy, right?
Can you call him now and see if he would...
Right now,
on
the podcast.
I've run into him every now and then through the years, and I believe it right now. If I ran into him, I would tell him that story.
Now, if it was Gilbert Gottfried, would it have been different? Would you have said something?
If it would have been Gilbert Gottfried, Gilbert, I didn't know Gilbert really well. I met him a few times, and I wouldn't at all say that we knew each other, other than to say hello to, and we knew each other's names. No, I wouldn't. Again, nobody knows why anybody does anything or anyone. So
yeah, and Godfrey wasn't really that big of a name back then, Greg. He didn't really get famous until like late 80s, after like the Aladdin
but he was
movie.
doing comedy in like I think late 70s, early 80s when he was like
he was,
15.
but then he went on Saturday Night Live and he became better known, but he hadn't really perfected his persona by then either. So, he didn't really come into that until much later, but that's neither here nor there. We're talking about Mark. So Mark, did you kind of move away from TV writing when you went into stand-up comedy, or were you doing it at the same time? It was simultaneous.
What happened was, I know it was actually the opposite. Right after, it was William Morris set me up at the Comedy Store. So they were already looking for work for me as a writer, because it was pilot season, had not yet started. It was 1976. So the pilot season, which would start, around writing season, would start like April-ish, May-ish. And nobody, I didn't know what it was going to happen, but they were sending me around to a lot of meetings, and they set me up at the store. But then I got a lot of work as a writer. I started to work all the time, and I was able to do stand-up for, I think, 5 years or something, 6 years. And then the writing just got to be too intense. And then I got married and had kids. So I stopped doing stand-up and concentrated on television. So in the early 90s, I did some stuff, and then I just had a break, you know. I aged out of a bunch of shit. I got a few jobs because I still had friends who were presidents of studios, but you know, then in the 2000 I did some stuff. I went to Cuba in 2010 and became the only person to ever executive produce a situation comedy for Cuban television.
Was Castro the main actor in that?
No, he was not, but he was. You know,
that would have made it a lot of fun.
It would have, you know.
Well, it's interesting because you worked on Charles in Charge.
I did.
We talked to a guy who worked on Charles in Charge who also went to Russia.
Who's that?
A communist country.
Who?
John Vorhaus.
Oh, I knew John.
He did the Married with Children in Russia.
Yeah. I knew John.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in Cuba, was it called Carlos in Charge?
No. No, the show that I did in Cuba was called U Telon, which means "Oh, the curtain." And
Greg is part Cuban.
Pardon me?
I'm half.
Greg, our co-host here, is part Cuban.
¿Habla español?
Un poco.
See, I always go un poquito.
Yeah, my wife is Colombian. And,
okay.
And we live in Colombia around 3 to 4 months a year. So, you know.
So you're fluent.
You know, I'm not fluent, but I go everywhere I want to go by myself, and I know how to say what I want to, and I kind of always understand what's going on.
So what was the shtick of this Cuban show?
It was called U Telon, which means "Oh, the curtain," and the premise was it's about a young girl who runs off of who bolts her wedding in a small town in Cuba and runs off to Havana and joins a down and out theater troupe. And yeah, I mean, I wanted a premise that was like kind of universal, you know, and I had to work with writers, with, you know, these Cuban writers, and they submitted a bunch of stuff to me that I wasn't even able to judge on the merit because it was just impossible to do. You know, it was just physically impossible to do. And then I just sent them out with one afternoon with an assignment. And I said, when you come back here, I want to know the person. I want you to come back with 2 people and present 2 people to me. The person you loved in your life or love in your life the most, and the person you have despised or despise in your life the most. And I want everybody to tell me who those 2 people are in their lives and why. And from those people, I gave them the guidance to draw characters.
Is that Fidel Castro?
He's calling him from the grave.
I don't even know who that was. So I got them to approach the show from a character point of view, rather than, you know, coming in with some kind of premise that was going to be, you know, you couldn't do. It was just too big for the budget. It was just too big for a bunch of other.
Well, that's the basis of all good sitcoms. That's brilliant. Like, yeah, we're gonna have the asshole guy that everyone knows that guy.
So yeah,
is it the basis of all good sitcoms, Greg, or all sitcoms?
I think even a shitty sitcom, you gotta have like the guy who's a jerk that everyone can identify. Oh, that guy. I knew that guy.
Yeah, and so they came back and they all had these 2 people. And I said, okay, now we have, you know, and I said, let's take this from this person and that from that. And, you know, and I said, now where are we going to put them? And then they all threw out, and somebody said theater. And I said, okay, how about a down and out theater company in Havana? And they went, great. And then they went, and I said, I gave them structure. I said, think of a family. You need a mother and a father, crazy aunt, crazy uncle, and some kids. That's not them by blood, but think of that in foundation when you, and they, to their credit, all of them they worked together and came back with what we had. And I thought they did an amazing, in the time frame and for the money, I think they did an amazing job.
How did the show do?
It did very well. I made 2 episodes, and then they were going to do more, but then budget cuts and nonsense. But they showed them on Cuban TV. They were very successful. They probably still show them.
Now, is it normal in the TV industry for writers to generally only work a couple of episodes of a show? Because I noticed that when we talked to you and with John Vorhaus and at least some other TV writer we've had on, well, they've only done like a couple of episodes of a show. Is it like you guys flit around a lot?
I was on staff at Charles in Charge.
Oh, you were? Okay.
I did 10. I ended up, was there for about 6 months. I did like 10 episodes.
Got it.
Yeah.
I think
it didn't give you that much credit on IMDb, so I.
I think there's a link you can get to all the episodes I wrote.
Now, how did you get this show in Cuba? Was that through William Morris?
No, it wasn't. No. I have a writing partner, sometimes friend, who's an internationally recognized screenwriting.
Sometimes
friend. I like that.
Yeah,
that's
sometimes. No, always, all the time. I did that as a joke. All the time, friend. Sometimes I have a friend who's my sometimes partner, writing partner.
Yeah.
So he went to Cuba to a place called EICTV, which is Escuela Internacional de Televisión and Film. And it was founded by Castro, Fernando Birra, and Gabriel Garcia Marquez.
Whoa.
Yeah, I know. Blew my mind too, right?
He's not even from Cuba.
No, he's from Colombia, right?
Yeah.
So my friend Paul Chitlick went there, and they asked him to do the sitcom thing, and he passed, and he said, "I'm not right for this. I'd love to do it, but I'm just not funny enough. I know somebody who is." And the next thing I knew, my wife and I were on a plane, out of Mexico City, headed to Havana.
Now, how long have you been married to your Colombian wife?
Let me see. I think 17 years.
Okay.
We're together 20 years. Yeah. So that's about right. Together 20 years, married 17. And
all right. So all in the 2000s.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah. And,
so you never made it to Colombia while Escobar was doing his things.
No, but I actually knew people, I believe, who purported to me that they did business with him.
I'm sure half of Colombia probably did at some point.
Yeah, they had to.
No, I'm not from down there, from LA.
Oh, in LA.
Oh, yeah.
Oh. Well, that would also be half of LA.
Also makes sense, right?
Right. Because that's where probably most of the sales were in LA.
Let me tell you something. It was so wild back then. I mean, it was an absurd. I mean, you'd see people sticking their heads out of cars trying to snort the lines off the Santa Monica freeway. I mean, it was.
Where's that rim shot when you need one?
I know, right? Hey, I'm a comedian. Fundamentally, I am just a fucking comedian.
I maybe should have researched more, but did you always have an affinity for comedy? Were you the class cut up as a kid?
I'll tell you a story. I was raised by a single father who was an extremely out of the box aluminum siding salesman, like custom made shark skin suits and mohair suits and big Cadillacs and big diamond pinky rings and exactly what you would expect,
So you were related to that guy?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, I've seen that guy.
My parents were divorced. I ended up living with my dad. My mother had moved out of state, and I was 9 turning 10. And my father said to me, "Hey man, listen, you're going to be 10. It's a big birthday, new decade, most important of your life right now, because you start here a boy, and in 10 years, you'll be a young man. And I want to get you something really special for your birthday."
I like where this is going.
And he said,
his own pinky ring.
No. So he said, "So just ask me, just what do you want?" And I said, "Okay, I want the Three Stooges." And my father, being who he was, instead of saying, "Oh no, that's impossible. I can't hear your vote," any kind of peas and carrots of how that ain't going to happen, said to me, "Okay, let me look into it."
Cool.
So he called a friend of his who was the talent booker at a nightclub around Pittsburgh called the Holiday House, where the Stooges had appeared, and found out that they were going to be there in January of 1959, 3 months after my birthday. So my dad came back to me, and and he got their agent's phone number, called the agent, and made a deal for them to perform on a Saturday afternoon while they were there at a private birthday party that my dad would throw at the Holiday House, at the nightclub, right?
Now, was Curly still around then, or was
No,
this
it
with
was Mo Howard,
Curly.
Curly Fine, and Curly Joe DeRita.
Curly Joe? Got it.
Yeah.
We had actually the real Curly's grandson on our show about a year ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that was kind of a fun interview. But
You might
anyway,
find
I'm
this-
sorry, interrupted.
Mark, you might find this interesting if you don't mind a little aside. This kid would just grow up like you, loving the Three Stooges. And then, like in his teens, his mom was like, "Yeah, I never told you your father was, and your grandfather's Curly." Like, so he was like instantly had this like status with all of his teenage friends. Who was like, "Fuck."
So what happened was my dad came to me and he told me, he said, "Look, I can get him for you, but it's going to be not until January. So you tell me what you want to do." So I said, "Yeah, book it, go." So about 65 people show up to the Holiday House, big nightclub. They start doing the show. And in the middle of the show, Mo stops the show and he says, "Folks, we're here to celebrate Mark's birthday. Where's Mark?" So I look at my dad, and my dad is like, "Raise your hand," So I raised my hand, and he said, "Why don't you stand up?" So I stood up. So give Mark a round of applause, his 10th birthday. I said, "Well, actually, it was 3 months ago." And Mo said, "We don't care. Today we're celebrating." So
Don't get picky.
he
I was
said,
afraid he would have done this to your eyes, like, "Come on, come there."
"No,
boy."
wait. So Mo says, "Your dad tells me that you are Pittsburgh's #1 Three Stooges fan." And I said, "Yeah, I am." Mo, I got a little bold, right? I said, "Mo." I called him Mo. My balls tickled. I remember that. I said, "Mo." And
A ball tickling moment.
yeah. And I said, and I know all your bits. So Mo says, "Well, why don't you come up here on stage and show us?" And I looked at my father. I fucking froze. I said, "What do I do?" My father said, "No time to explain now. Just get your ass up on that stage." He said, "You'll thank me. Get up there."
So how did it go?
I went
He's
up
going to
on-
tell us, Greg. Let him tell the story.
No, I'm sorry. I'm so excited.
No, it's okay.
This is a great story.
So I go up on stage and we start. Mo does something like that to me, and I go like this to him. And then he does something to me, and I yell, "Mo, Larry the cheese! Mo, Larry the cheese!"
Mo, Larry the cheese! Mo, Larry the cheese!
And I, and they go, "Niagara Falls," and I start backstepping and shit. And he fucking falls out.
It was in Niagara Falls. Niagara Falls! Slowly I turned, and step by step, inch by inch, I walked up to him and I smashed him. I hit him. I bumped him with him. I tore them to pieces and I knocked them down.
And he stops the show again, and he puts his hand on my forehead and my head here, and he said, "Mark, I dub you the fourth Stooge."
Whoa!
Everybody went fucking nuts. Like 60 people became 6,000 in about an instant, and they just couldn't bang in the tables and shit. And I remember being up on that stage and just getting this warm feeling. It was like somebody had just thrown a heated down quilt at me, and it was hugging me and making me feel the best I had ever felt in my entire life. So I'm writing a book now, a fictional version of my life called Dumb Effing Luck. And that's the day that I remember deciding that, I want more of this.
Right.
And
that's a great story.
From that on, I became like an incessant television watcher. I watched every comedian on television. I got to understand what stand-up was. And then my dad said to me, I don't know, maybe a year later, my dad said to me, hey, listen, I have a friend from Hollywood in town. He's a comedian. And he tells me his name, and I hear Big Ship. And there's some guy named Mr. Big Ship, right? And he wants to have lunch with us. And my dad used to manage a nightclub after World War II. So he knew a lot of people. So we go down to the William Penn Hotel, and Mr. Big Ship turned out to be comedian Joey Bishop.
Oh, okay, cool.
Who was a friend of my dad's.
Yeah.
Right. So
Joey Bishop was a friend of your dad's.
Yeah, Joey Bishop.
Nice. Okay.
So was actually Jerry Seinfeld.
Okay.
So I was just, then I started watching Joey Bishop on TV, and and just got into it, and that was it. So when you say, was I the class clown, I was thrown out of public school for being too funny.
That was the thing that was written down on paper? He's too funny, he must go.
They told my father, they told my father that what happened was I was in an algebra class. They didn't like me to begin with because I was always smart mouthing, right? But right. I had this thing where if any class, if a teacher would ask a question, kids would put their hands up, right? If anyone saw me put my hand up, they put their hands down.
And then that was
because they knew something was coming, right? So the teacher writes an equation on the board, like x plus t minus q times f with some squiggly thing to the third equals something. And he turns to the class and says, something's wrong with this equation. If you can tell me what's wrong with this equation, I will give you 25 extra credit points towards your final grade. And a bunch of kids put their hands up. And then I thought of something and put my hand up, and everybody's hands went down. So the teacher knew, right, that I was, I had no answer, but he's, Mr. Sheffler, you know the answer to this. And I said, yes. And he said, okay, Mr. Sheffler, what is wrong with this equation? I said, no vowels. Class cracks up. He doesn't even skip a beat. He says, go to
Frizzle's
the
office. Right.
It's enough. Go. Just get out of here and don't ever come back. Okay.
On that note, this is a perfect time for us to go into the cooking segment, which we should have done like 15 minutes ago. And Greg has gone to the bathroom, I'm sure. So since he's not
That's
participating,
not related to the cooking segment, is it?
It might be. That's usually what he waits for. He waits for the cooking segment to go use the bathroom, and I didn't do it soon enough, apparently. So I just need to get it started so Greg can finish with whatever it is he's doing.
Greg, we're happy to have you back.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
Is Greg back? Has you returned? Okay, good.
Nature called, and I answered.
At Safe Mart, it's a Safe Mart. Come to Safe Mart and be safe.
Safe Mart is a proud sponsor of Food is for Eating with Waspy Soda Pop. Today's special, Kiviak fermented seal stuffed with awkbirds for only $532 a pound. Come get some at Safe Mart. Be safe.
Food is for eating. Food is for eating. Food is for eating with Waspy Soda Pop.
Hey there, everybody. You are in for a treat. This is Waspy Soda Pop and Food is for Eating. Today we got bagels and lox 3 ways. First are your ingredients. You want to get 3 medium bagels, split them, and toast them. Then 6 ounces of cream cheese, softened cream cheese. 6 bunches of hair, can be blonde, brunette, or red as needed to taste. 3 tablespoons of capers, drained and divided. That is optional, of course. Not everybody likes capers. They're kind of weird. 6 ounces of thinly sliced smoked salmon. 3 metal fasteners, not deadbolts. Remember that. 1/3 of a cup of thinly sliced red onion. That also is optional. Again, not everybody likes onions. Red onions, also kind of weird. Freshly ground black pepper, also to taste. And lemon wedges to garnish. So simple. So simple. All right, here's how you make it. You spread the toasted bagel bottom halves with cream cheese. You sprinkle half the capers over the cream cheese if you desire them. Again, capers are weird. Top off each bagel half with the sliced smoked salmon, 1 metal fastener, and 1 bunch of hair for each half. I prefer the red hair to match the salmon. You know, you want to have your color branding correct, your color grading. Garnish the bagel tops with the rest of the capers, the onion, and the black pepper, and then you garnish with fresh lemon wedges. Doesn't get any easier than that. That's lox 3 ways. You've got the smoked salmon, you've got the metal fasteners, and you got the bunches of hair. Those are all 3 different kinds of lox. If I gotta spell it out to you, it's time for you to buy a thesaurus. Anyway, this is Waspy Soda Pop. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye. All right.
Okay.
Well, you know, bagels and lox is a hard recipe for people to follow, so I guess it was necessary for that to be produced.
Well, it is when you have to get locks of hair and fasteners. It's way harder.
Master locks.
You got to go to a hardware store.
Where are you guys located?
We're up in Portland, up in
okay.
Oregon. Yes.
Portland, Oregon?
Although we're both East Coast transplants, so I moved here from the DC area, and Greg is from New York.
I like Portland. I have a couple of friends who live up there.
I like this town too, even though it's on fire right now. There's smoke in the air.
There is? How is there? I didn't know there's smoke in the air.
Hey,
not in my neck of the woods, Greg.
Every morning I check the weather and it says like it's worse than it was yesterday. That's what it tells me. Great.
It's worse than it was yesterday.
The air quality is worse.
Any town where you can get 900 different beers is a fucking.
Oh yeah, you can definitely get a lot of beer here.
I have a beer nerd friend from Vancouver, Canada, who comes down here, and he's just like in heaven. He is just like, we're going to this place. I read about it on the internet. There's crazy places here.
Yeah,
if you're a beer guy.
I've almost been like stomped out for not drinking pissy beer in places, and I'm a real snob. And I have
this is a city for snobs. I got to tell you about beer.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
true.
Yeah, I think you can't buy a house there unless you click that box off there. You a snob? Yes, I am. Okay, you're welcome.
I'm a snob in some way. I don't know which way, but I'll find the right niche. All right, we've got to move into the Ask Greg segment. This is our legal segment, so I'll get this one going right now as well. So.
He has an opinion, may not always be right. He's a real fake lawyer. He's old and he's white. Ask him a question, 'cause he's a good egg for bogus advice. Ask Greg. Ask Greg. Ask Greg.
Okay, this is our legal segment where we take questions from the audience if there is ever an audience that has a question that they want to ask. But I do have a question from the audience, Greg, if you are ready for that.
Well, does Mark have a question?
No, I defer to the audience.
Okay.
He's giving it back to the audience. All right, so here's the question, Greg. For your legal expertise as a very fake lawyer, what are the difference between water rights and riparian rights? This is from Josie Eldorado in Queens, Florida.
So, Matt, this is a humor segment, but you're just trying to like prove that I'm not a lawyer. Riparian.
Well, no, I really want to hear your response. I think you will have a very educated guess on the difference between water rights and riparian rights, Greg. So let's hear them. Yes.
So water that ripes fruit? I have no idea what riparian. It sounds Latin. Like, is this some?
I just looked it up.
Well, Greg is the fake lawyer. He's supposed to know this from the tip of his tongue. So
I'm talking to my associate Mark right now. Mark, as my legal aid.
Legal aid.
Could you tell me the definition of riparian rights?
Well, it says here in an excerpt from the University of the Internet. A riparian right entitles the landowner to use a correlative share of water flowing past his or her property. Riparian rights do not require permits, licenses, or government approval, but they only apply to the water which would naturally flow in the stream. So what that means is if you have a stream flowing through your property that flows there naturally, it is your riparian right to access that stream as it appears on your property.
Do you concur? Do you concur with that, Greg? Is that accurate?
I'm going to say, yeah. It sounds good. You could swim in it. You could drink from it.
But Yeah, you can't pee in it because your pee would go up or downstream.
Yes. Well, I wouldn't do that anyway.
And
Right.
who would have the riparian rights to your pee, Greg?
I'm not a fucking animal. I would never pee in a stream in my life. But I'm saying, like, usually the questions are kind of ripe for comedy, riparian for comedy. And
Sounds alien, doesn't it?
I don't know what to say. I'm sorry.
Doesn't that sound like an alien race? Ah, the riparians are here.
It was like they're part of the QAnon.
They know the Kardashians.
Yeah, which I always thought was like a Star Trek thing until I found they were real.
I know Kardashian sounds like a Star Trek thing.
Yeah.
All right, I got another question for you, Greg. This is from Janine. This is from Janine Boxcutter from Albuquerque, Utah, and her question is:
Is that a Russian name, Boxcutter? I'm not
yes, it
familiar
is. It says, my husband has moved out of the house. We're getting a divorce. I haven't worked in 4 years because he has an electrical company, and I didn't need to. I would like to know what my legal rights are from this point on.
She has every volt he works with. She has half the rights to.
Half of every volt.
Yeah, he's an electrician.
It's known as a demivolt.
But,
okay,
but what's on second?
No, who's on second? What's on third?
That was cute. I gotta say.
Thank you.
But yeah, she's got the right to half of his electricity, his voltage.
Now, if the electricity was in a stream, would she have riparian rights for the electricity as well?
You could only tap the electricity when it flowed past your house.
Right. And if she peed on the electrical stream.
But that would be a very dangerous stream. It's like you couldn't even touch it. It was right, had voltage in it. So yeah, I think that she does have rights. Because,
okay.
It's
well, she wouldn't know what those rights are, though.
Well, I'm saying I don't know if there's a Latin term for it, like a legal term, but that's his business. So she has half.
She has sin humpus neighbor.
Sin humpus neighbor?
Yes, which means if her husband leaves, she can hump the neighbor, and it's not a sin.
It's habeas coitus, I believe that's what that's called.
Habeas coitus, right?
Yes. I think we've got that on the nose there now. Okay. Well, all right, good. Well, we've gotten through our legal segment. So it's time to deal with our client with whatever time we choose to deal with, because once again, we've given our client short shrift, and our client once again is life is horror and you're horrible. So essentially what this means is, we'll just take it back to the last house on the left. So Last House on the Left, I don't think is that far off from probably some true circumstances that has happened to somebody in this country, given the nature of kidnappings and abuse and abductions.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's so many things in life that are actually just horror. But what would you say, Greg, is something that you've experienced that you could say was legitimate horror?
I never have.
Other than your actual life itself.
My life is not horrible. I mean, some people would see it that way, but it's pretty pleasant. But I just want to say that, like, I don't know if, Mark, you have any guilt that Last House on the Left led to many horror movies that are just like almost horrible to watch. Where it's like, so it's not just like a fun horror movie.
Oh yeah,
like,
we were
like Don't Look in the Basement or something like that.
All those movies, Maniac, all the slasher movies where it's just like, this is
any
dark.
movie that had the word house in it, copy.
Yeah.
Right. But we were the first and we were the original. So yeah. I didn't give a shit. I've had a changing relationship with it anyway. So,
I was kind of asking that facetiously because I grew up watching.
Did you say facetiously?
I think I did.
Is that a word?
I think I just made it. I just coined it. But I do got to say, I grew up as a Fangoria reading kid who loved every nasty slasher movie in the early 80s, late 70s. So it's not like I'm really like judging you, but it is like Last House on the Left was particularly sadistic. It was like, oh my Lord, this is just like.
Was it more sadistic than A Clockwork Orange?
Different.
Yeah, different.
It's a different genre, kind of, but at the same time, Clockwork Orange. I mean, honestly, I've never seen Last House on the Left, but Clockwork Orange for me was like this viscerally violent.
But they still had fundamentally the same thing. They were both they were both movies about class warfare.
Yeah.
You know,
I didn't
Oh,
get
so
that.
Last House on the Left was a class warfare film.
Yeah,
didn't
I believe
quite-
you know something that I say that is that's where I've landed on what it's really about. Right?
Ah.
And I've gone through different phases of what's the essence of that movie. And then I was watching it, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago. I had to go to a screening of it, and I was watching it. And I started to pay particular attention to the dinner scene. And that's when I realized what the movie was about. Because that now I looked at it with very clear eyes, and I said, oh, this is class fucking warfare. This is a skirmish in class warfare.
Wow.
Similar to, I guess,
like
like Deliverance, I suppose, would be something like that as well.
Yeah. There were the scenes that led up to the dinner, to the dinner scene and shortly afterwards showed me that, it's not about just the violence. It's not, there's a reason for it. And
we've just gone far too deep for our viewers
Mark,
and
have
listeners.
you ever seen the Jordan Peele movie Get Out?
Yes, I think I have. I know it sounds weird, but yeah.
Yeah, that was another horror movie that had just this deep social undercurrent to it.
Well, yeah,
like,
of course.
It isn't just scary. It's like, no, they're telling us shit.
But look, you can say what you want about Last House, plus or minus, but last August, at the end of August, Last House was one of 6 films on display and being screened at the Museum of Modern Art in New York City, as part of an exhibition on films that have a visceral effect on the human body. And I got to tell you, when I saw the flyer for that, and I saw the company it was keeping, I had like a holy shit moment. I had like one of my Casablanca moments where it's like, of all the fucking horror films ever made all over the world, they picked that. And I went, wow.
No, there was something about it, even as a teenager, I didn't get why it was so moving. But I kind of want to rewatch it now with what you told me, where it's like there was something about that movie that was different than all the other slasher, stupid horror movies.
Even though I was a part of it, I've learned more about what it is from talking to fans.
Yeah.
Right? Because I subvert my own ego there, and I say, oh, well, who gives a shit what I think? It's what they think that really counts. And I got from them a variety of things, but what I learned was the beginnings of what came my analysis about the class warfare thing. But also, I couldn't for years, I couldn't figure out, why is it still around? Why it should have been gone and just like some fucking video selection, on an obscure website. But no, it's very, very front and center. Every now and then it makes it, and then I learned from fans, kids and their parents would come to my table to get stuff, and the kids would say, my parents made me watch this. My mom made me watch this. My dad made me watch this.
Wow.
My parents
didn't want to watch that.
Because they wanted me to know what could happen to me if I made a wrong decision.
Oh, like what's out in this world? What are
like the
people you need to be?
The whole cautionary tale thing. And I heard that quite a bit. It was a recurring theme among fans. And I've talked to untold thousands of fans over the years, right? Maybe it's up to 1 million by now. I don't know, but I've talked to a lot of people, and that is a very recurring theme.
I think you guys are in MoMA with Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Night of the Living Dead. Those are the permanent collections. Like, they're all movies that were just like, they were not trying to create art. They were just trying to make money.
But Spy Who Shagged Me was on that list too, right?
What? Spider Baby?
Spy Who Shagged Me, Austin Powers. That's on that list.
But Spider Baby is. Spider Baby.
Spider Baby?
It's amazing. You got to check it out.
Is this the child of Spider-Man?
No, but it's an amazing movie. It's beyond horror. It's beyond just like a schlocky horror movie, like where it taps into some kind of universal vein of just like family and horror.
Spider Baby has the seductive innocence of Lolita and the savage hunger of a black widow. Spider Baby will give you nightmares forever. No man that loves her lives to love another. Her sweet kisses engulf you in a bloody web of horror. Spider Baby will thrill you, then kill you. Starring Spider Baby and Lon Chaney.
I got to give you a little bit of credit this week, though, Greg. I have to say you've done a very good job of not being anywhere near as drunk as you were last week on the show.
I'm fucking wasted right now.
I know, but I'm saying, like last week, you were in rare form.
Yeah,
he was nearly accosting Jeremy Rain through the video that we were having.
Was I
with
really?
with his mad crush on her? So
Can I promo something?
Sure. Yeah, please. Actually, take this opportunity to talk about anything you got going on, any websites, all of that, everything, your book that you've got coming up too.
I'm in process writing the book. It's called Dumb Effing Luck, and it is the story of me and my very successful mediocre career. And tonight I'm in LA, and not in my house in Indio, but I'm in my apartment in LA. Because I'm attending a screening. Nobody ever goes to screenings. That you attend screenings. And I'm going to a screening tonight, premiere actually, of a film called The Once and Future Smash that I have a little part in as myself. So
Once and Future Smash, what's that about?
It is to horror films and horror conventions what Spinal Tap was to rock and roll bands.
The Once and Future Smash.
Oh, okay.
Ooh, I want to see that.
It's gotten, when I tell you that it has gotten at least a dozen fucking amazing reviews. It premiered in August at Fright Fest in London, and it was talk of the festival, right? And every review I've read of it has been terrific. So when they were making it, I knew one of the producers who had called and asked me if I would come in and participate in this mockumentary, and he gave me the setup, and I said, fuck yeah, it just sounds, I want to be part of this. So tonight.
Oh, sorry. No,
please go ahead.
Sorry. No, to you, but I'm going to interject at some point.
Oh, please go ahead, interject away.
I just wanted to say sorry to interject, even though I thought you were done. But I just want to say that speaking of conventions, I was at the 1982 Fangoria convention in New York City.
Okay.
And Michael Berryman was there.
I know Michael.
And I got to, yeah, of course you do. And I got to hear Michael Berryman talk. He talked about how, Matt, do you know who Michael Berryman is? The bald guy in Last House on the Left?
Very otherworldly.
No, like I said, I haven't seen the movie, Greg.
But he was on he was in Weird Science.
Yeah, he's kind of otherworld. He's
a that guy. He's a that guy. You know, you see it. You've seen him. He's a very weird looking guy. No offense.
No, but a great guy. Just a terrific.
Who would you be offending there, Greg?
Well, I said he's a weird looking guy. He is a weird looking guy. That's why he got all these roles in horror movies. But part of his condition was he couldn't sweat. So they were out in this hot film set, Last House on the Left.
No,
and they would always have to stop.
Hills Have Eyes, not Last House on the Left.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, that guy. Okay, yeah, I know who you're talking about. Because I was
so sorry. I thought he was in Last House on the Left
no,
too.
Wait, did you say
that was Wes's second? That was Wes's second film.
Oh, okay, but he would have to. Actually, they have to stop filming so he could just pant like a dog. Like he couldn't sweat, so he would get overheated.
So, Greg, what's actually the point of this?
Because I thought that Michael Berryman was in Last House on the Left. But Mark does know Michael Berryman, so it all worked out. He's a
But why would you bring up this guy having to pant like a dog, though?
Because it's an interesting story. This guy has this condition where he couldn't sweat.
Now the next time I see him, I got to offer him a bowl of water because
yeah, you do.
Pat him on the head.
Give him a little snack, a pepperoni.
Thank you for that interesting interchange of pointlessness, Greg. So
I told you I was drunk.
Hard to get that these days.
Oh, no, it's on our podcast every week.
Sorry, Mark. Let's go back to you. Sorry.
No, it's okay.
Well, we were talking about horror and horrible things, but I think he's got more things to plug. So please,
Wait,
Mark,
but
if you
can I
got...
ask? Is this
No,
movie
Greg,
gonna be
he's
on
got more
streaming?
things to
No,
plug.
I want to know about that movie. I want to see that.
So, but we want to let him finish promoting his stuff, Greg, and then talk to him about it.
But I need to know how to see this movie.
I don't know the answer to any of those questions. So let me, and I'm not commenting or denying. I just don't know. I'll probably find out tonight.
But it's called The Once and Future Smash.
Yeah. If any of you guys are it's on IMDb. You can see it on IMDb.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, I actually have another YouTube channel, which is a sci-fi fantasy news channel. So if I can get a press release on that, I'll probably put something together and put it out.
If you have a computer handy, you can just search right now The Once and Future Smash, and you'll see what it is. It's just fucking hysterical, just the way they did it, and they're getting and a lot of these reviewers are making the Spinal Tap comparison, which I think is just sensational, because that's one of my favorite films of all time.
Me too. That's an honor.
Yeah, so it is, and the two directors, they're a married couple, Michael and Sophia, are just wonderful. They're just, they just had this vision, and they kept it through the COVID bullshit, and they just kept at it and shot a little bit here, a little bit there. And
Lloyd Kaufman's in it too, apparently.
Yeah.
Whoa.
We have to call your friend Greg, who was with Toxic Avenger back in the day.
I know Lloyd Kaufman. I met him.
This is the thing. I told my wife, I said, somehow I've really had a career. And I said, I know this because when somebody asks you to be in your movie and play yourself.
Right.
Yeah.
That's because, you represent something. Yeah. So I'm 73. So, I'm in that reflective part of my life, right?
What did I do anything important type of thing? Like what have I accomplished?
I swallowed that one a long time ago. But I've done things that were funny, which has been my goal, right?
But technically, you did do something important, Mark.
Yeah, I guess.
You played a major role in a movie that is part of the MoMA display of the movies that have created a visceral effect on people. That's pretty significant.
But then again, in the course of writing my book, I looked back on certain parts of my life, and like I told you when I left college, 3 goals: smoke as much weed as I can, sleep with as many different women as I can, make enough money to have the weed and the women. I look back and I realized one day that I have greatly exceeded my own expectations.
Do you still smoke weed? Is the question.
Yeah.
It's legal now. You must have been so thrilled when they passed the law. Yeah.
It looks like a lighter.
No, watch this.
The technology has changed from the days when I used to.
I want to ask you a question, Mark. Mark, I don't even like pot. I never liked pot. It never did well with me. But I was still into the politics of pot. Like as a teenager, I was like, why is this illegal? It's better than booze. Like,
guys, I am.
Were you thrilled when they? Were you amazed when they legalized it? Were you just like, I never?
He's trying to answer you, Greg. You keep stopping him.
No, I just wanted to ask the question, Matt.
Yeah,
I'm saying I never thought it would happen in my lifetime. I thought it was science fiction.
So as you know, California was very early on, right?
Yeah, you're the first, I think.
Yeah. So I became I got a medical thing right away, and I started. The thing is, my body has grown up, but I'm still like 19, 20, 21 years old. I'm still kind of immature, and I'm not just saying it. It's like for real, I've been a zillion places in my life. I've seen a zillion things. I know a lot of people. I still think the coolest thing I've ever seen is when I was 11 years old and I was at summer camp and saw a kid light a fart. That's like the coolest thing I've ever seen.
Blue
and
flame.
I've seen a lot of shit, right? So there's something I do about legal marijuana. If I go to a dispensary that's in a strip mall, And if there's a cop car there at another store, I will park as close to the cop car as I can, get out and ask one of the cops, is there a place around here where I can buy some marijuana?
That's perfect. I love it.
I do that almost every time. And my wife sits in the car and goes, you're going to do this again? You're going to fucking do this again? Okay.
Do they give you good advice?
I said, you know how many times I ran from cops when I was a kid?
Yeah.
This is payback.
Damn it.
You know, this is me getting even with the man. You know?
Are some of the cops kind of cool? They're like, give you good
They're
advice?
all cool. They don't give a shit.
Yeah. They're like, oh, dude, you got to try the purple.
No. I never.
Place.
No. I'll tell you, I would, and again, you know, this whole age thing, how it affects your life. I was coming back from Colombia. My wife and I were coming back from Colombia, and before COVID, and that you still had to go through customs with a person there, right? So I'm in line, and there's nothing in my bags at all, you know, it's nothing. And this young customs officer said to me, so where were you? I went, Colombia. He said, where? I went, Colombia, man.
Yeah, but cocaine is illegal. So did they check your ass for?
Wait, no. The guy looked at me, an old man, and I knew it. He saw my beard was like out to here. He sees this old man with a beard, with a cane, because I sometimes take a cane when I fly for, you know, for stability, so I don't get knocked over. And he just said to me, "Just go."
I'm not gonna look up there.
Go, you old hippie.
Welcome back. He said, welcome back. There are people behind you. And
get out of my way,
I got
Jerry.
pissed off. I said to my wife, did you see that? And she said, did I see what? I said, well, I faked like I was smoking a joint, and then I snorted some air cocaine, and
he dismissed me.
He just fucking.
He didn't give me a rectal cavity search for
He shit me right out.
That's why Greg goes to fly, is for one of those.
Yeah.
My wife said to me, when we go home, take a good look at yourself in the mirror. Okay?
A really good look.
See if you can figure out why he did that.
Yeah.
All right, Mark, before you go, once again, is there a website where people can find all your stuff?
I'm on Facebook and Instagram, and I'm working on my book. I'm going to the premiere of that movie tonight and enjoy myself, seeing myself on the screen and watching the work of these very talented. You're going to hear about these people. They're going to, you know, there's these two they're going to make another movie real soon.
When your book comes out, feel free to reach back out to us. We'd love to have you on again, and we'll spend less time dealing with Last House on the Left. We'll just go right into the meat of the book, whenever that happens to be.
That's my thing.
You're definitely entertaining. We totally appreciated having you on.
Thank you
also, by the way, everybody who comes on the show as a guest eventually will get an award from us. We have an award show every year, and they're called the Quibblies. So expect that around June. We'll be reaching out and going, if you want to join us for our award show, which is all Zoom. It's all done on Zoom because we're very low budget.
Come around, it would be an honor because I probably don't have anything else to do.
That's right. You'll get your very first award from us at the very least.
All right.
I don't know if you've gotten them from anywhere else, but you got them from us. Thank you very much, Mark. Totally appreciate you. And we'll see you another time.
Bye-bye, Greg.
That was a great episode, Mark.
So sober up, Greg, is what he was trying to say.
That could happen.
Hey, are you going to go to? Oh, I need to stop the live stream, don't I? Yeah. Well, you know what? We don't have any guests on next week, so we'll do it. We'll go fully into the client next week. Since we barely even touched the surface of the client once again.
Yeah, we did it.
So it'll be a Redux Ducks.
Oh, really? We're gonna do horror again.
We'll do it for a third time because Brendan will be back and we can just be us talking about it. So that'll work out. So anyway, this has been another episode of the Law Offices of Quibble, Squabble Bicker. Our guest is Marc Sheffler. We have no guests in the foreseeable future, but for now, that was that.
Your consultation with the law offices of Quibble, Squabble, and Bicker has ended. You may pay your retainer at www.qsblaw.org. Please exit to the right of the water cooler and grab a candy from the front desk. We hope to see you again soon, but you need to leave now. I said leave. Why don't they even listen? Get out! Get out!